at that point of the year where we talk about the best albums of the year so far. We also have best songs of the year, but that one's not ready yet. It's coming. It's coming. This is always one of my favourite points of the year, where you get to highlight the best albums that have come out so far. There's been a lot of good music. I've seen a lot of people say that, 2021, it ain't shit. It ain't got nothing on 2020, but each to their own. I think maybe last year was slightly better in terms of quality of albums, or the quantity of great albums. There might have been more at this point last year than this year, but I'm still pretty happy with the great music that we've got so far. And always as well, there's always albums that people just don't become aware of until later on. So hopefully this list gives you some new albums that you haven't seen being talked about as much, and it will give you some new music. That's always what I want to do on this channel. So let's go with this, man. The best albums of the year so far. I'm gonna go with 10, because I don't want to spoil my year-end list too much by giving you loads of albums, so I'm just gonna keep it to 10. Actually though, I will give you a bonus one. I'll give you the Kojak album, because I did review it very recently, and I think it still deserves the attention, well, more attention than what it's currently getting so far. Some people are talking about it. He's an Irish rapper, really good rap album, one of the best rap albums I've heard all year, and I don't think rap has been the strongest in 2021 as well. So if you need more hip-hop music in your life, please check out the Irish rapper Kojak and his album Town's Dead. So there you go. 11. I gave you an extra. But going to start with one of the most talked about albums of the year so far, I think. Porter Robinson with Nurture. This album is absolutely blissful, and it is an album that grew on me so much immediately. When I first heard it, my immediate reaction was, I can't get with these vocals. But the more I heard it, the vocals have just gotten better and better and better, and they just fit the atmosphere of the music perfectly. And honestly, I'm looking at the score I gave this album and thinking maybe it should have been higher. And I said in my review as well, I think it's got so much potential to get even better as time goes on. And it's only been a few months, and I really do think this is growing even higher in my estimations. Honestly, I think this is absolutely fantastic. It's an absolute gorgeous electronic pop release with some really heavy EDM influences on many of the tracks. You just gotta look at some of these tracks that use kind of like EDM tropes in such a creative way that I don't think many artists have even touched on. I mean, there was loads of EDM artists booming in the 2010s, and a lot of it just felt a bit forced, a bit fake, not really very tasteful. Some of the tracks were fun, obviously, you can't escape the fun EDM bangers, but I think Porter Robinson's just honed it in such a cool way, and using these really weird, like alien androgynous vocals throughout the album that are just so interesting to listen to. And it's just so sweet. It's just a sweet album. It's honestly so good. Next I want to mention Mon Laferte, who is filling in the gap for Latin pop music in 2021. I think this is definitely the best of that style I've heard all year. I've heard a few albums in this style too, and I think this is winning. I think Mon Laferte is an artist who really deserves more attention than she's getting in the Western world. She is a very big artist in, Spanish-speaking countries, but we have this weird thing with artists like this where we don't really give them huge amounts of attention unless it's like Daddy Yankee or something. I don't know. I don't really get what goes on in the Western world when it comes to Spanish-speaking artists. We just don't seem to give them the time of day. Again, unless it's like Enrique Iglesias or something. But no, Mon Laferte is fantastic. Natalia Lafourcade fans would absolutely be head over heels for this, and I think you should be checking it out as well. A really great album with really great vocals. She has such a rasp to her voice, a smokiness that makes her stand out, and these tracks are really good, and yeah, one of my favorites so far. One of the few rock albums I think I've been hyping up so far this year has got to be the album from Shame. I actually think this, out of all of the albums that are getting talked about in the UK post-punk movement thing that everyone keeps branding you know, all these bands together, Black Midi, Black Country New Road, Squid, many others too. I actually think out of all of them, Shame has just put out my most listened to album in this style. And not only that, but they are probably the most straightforward band as well. There's no like extra gimmicks, there's no like, you know, wacky vocalist that's taking charge, although I'm not against that. But it is just kind of funny how this has ended up being one of my favourites out of the UK rock scene. I still adore that Black Country New Road album, by the way. I guess that's an extra one again, so you technically have 12 albums now. God, I've cheated. I was supposed to be 10. But I do think Shame just has a really great way of like attacking songs. Like these tracks are just so heavy and hard hitting, like Snow Day, Born in Luton, just absolute ferocious rock bangers. And I think it is honestly just such a step up from the debut. The debut just felt pretty standard, pretty typical, but they've really like honed in their style and taken influence from bands like Protomartyr, I think, and maybe even a band like Idols too, but I think they've just shaped their album in such a great way. And yeah, I think this is great. Arooj Aftab next. Actually listened to this album this morning just to kind of go back to it and soak it all in. This is just a wonderful listen. Honestly, the vocals here are just the show stealer. They just really just command your attention. She has an absolutely stunning voice. I really can't get over how good she sings on the track. Enea, whoa, just blows me away. The vocals, absolutely stunning. Honestly, if you're just wanting something like in the vein of, I guess, in terms of vocals, like a Julia Holter or an Ichiko Aoba, similar on those lines-ish. You know, if you just want a wonderful singer just commanding your presence the entire time, like, I think this is the kind of album for you. She is glorious. Next, I want to mention Bladee, who is surprisingly here in my 10 favourite albums of the year so far. Never thought I'd see him here. Back when I reviewed some of his earliest stuff, I think it was Ice Dancer, I also reviewed Exeter, and I got ratioed in many ways from the comments and from the like to dislike bar as well. Yeah, this guy was never for me. But something's changed since 333. Something has changed. I think his vocals are sounding better. I think the tracks are just way more beautiful and arranged in such a gorgeous way. Like, there's just such an atmosphere to these tracks, and I think he's finding a way to just make his music more and more beautiful as time goes on. The tracks are very short and straight to the point. I think lyrically he's starting to bring up topics in a more interesting way. I think there are some funny lines that come out of this album too. Yeah, Blade's killing it. I think he's honestly getting so much better than he was when he first started. And some of the older stuff as well, I think has grown on me a little bit. But even still, I think Drain Gang listeners could probably get on board with the fact that Bladee is just improving in so many different ways with each album. Honestly, he is killing it. Next, I want to mention Bruno Pernadas, who is just an unsung hero, I think, in chamber pop music. His album from 2016 is great, and the new one here, that took a bit of a while to really click with me, is honestly equally as great and perhaps even better in many ways. I think the songs are just really arranged beautifully. I think his vocals really work well. It's a pretty long album, but I think when you just sit with it and take the time that it needs to really, like, you know, consume you in the ways that, you know, chamber pop and genres like this, art pop, I guess you could call it, really do, then I think you'll come to really appreciate what he's doing here. I think he's a really fantastic musician. Speaking of fantastic musicians, Genesis Awosu broke onto the scene with Smiling with No Teeth. This guy came out of nowhere and immediately is proving to be one of the most creative, diverse artists in music at the moment, whether he's doing rock, whether he's doing pop, whether he's doing soul, whether he's doing a bit of rapping. He's doing everything on this album, man, and nothing really stands out in a poor way. I think he just has a really good approach at putting together a song, and I think he could potentially be influential. I think more artists could look to him and think, okay, this is how you combine your versatility and your influences together to create a really fun listen that has so many varying different genres across the board. And I think a lot of artists who try to be versatile struggle to, check every box. But Genesis can do anything. And even the live performances I've seen him do are bloody brilliant as well. His Talking Heads cover, Psycho Killer, wow, that is an absolute show-stopping performance. And this guy, I think, is only going to go on up, but I think this is a really great album, and I hope people agree with it as well. Next, I want to mention Hiatus Kaiyote, who is a band that took a 6-year hiatus. I didn't know that they were actually on hiatus, but it makes sense because it's in their name. They probably planned it all along, but these guys have been brewing up like their best album to date, or in that whole time. Like, seriously, if we're gonna wait even more time for the next album, and it's as good as this, like, if we have to wait another 6 years, I'll wait. If it's gonna be this good, I'll wait. I actually had a friend who listens to this, and he was struggling to like kind of pinpoint the genres that they were going for. And I think he raised a very good point. Like, he liked how it sounded, but yeah, in some ways it is actually difficult to pinpoint what they're actually doing with each track. But yeah, it just sounds so good. The vibes are so positive, the energy is just there, the vocals are weird, wacky, and brilliant, really. They are just such a creative band, and yeah, this album just makes you feel so happy when you listen to it. Even the sad songs, there's some sad tracks, but they don't bring you down. They don't. Japanese Breakfast is another artist, I think, who has once again just proved to be putting out their best music in 2021 to date. I think there was a lot of potential with Soft Sounds from Another Planet. In fact, at the time I did really like it, but as time went on, there was something about it that I just thought this could get even better. And I think she's done that. She's made this sweet, sugary pop album with, once again, lots of different influences coming together, some 2000s bands that you can tell are really influential to what she's doing, the synth pop influences, the kind of like 80s pop influences as well. Just a really great listen, and I think, Michelle is coming through with just her best piece of work today. It's catchy, it's really well crafted, the arrangements I think are really strong on many of these tracks too, some really interesting lyrical themes as well. Yeah, just once again great to see a strong artist with a lot of potential hit that potential, and this is again one of my favorites of the year. And I finally wanted to finish off with what is pretty much my current favorite album of the year. This list hasn't been ordered, by the way, it wasn't 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 or anything like that. It's just a pretty unordered list, but I think most people that keep up to date with this channel will know that Pierre Bourne has my album of the year so far, and it just seems to make sense to finish with this for a few reasons, really. I mean, first of all, I think this is honestly one of the best of its kind. I think in terms of cloud, rap, and trap, this truly is one of the best albums I've heard in this style. I think in terms of like the transitions from track to track are absolutely masterful. Some of these beats are insane. I think his performances really work in a strong way to kind of like complement the instrumentals. I know some people seem to think he's a bit boring, he's not very entertaining, but I actually think what he's doing with his voice just matches the atmosphere of these tracks perfectly. I never get bored with what he's doing. He's either just, getting soaked in with the track, or he's standing out by throwing in these repetitive lines about Booker T and many other things too that just really stand out as fun, quotable parts of the track that just really worked for me. I think some people just haven't really clicked with this album, but I think sit with it longer, honestly. I think you do start to respect what he's doing. And yeah, sure, lyrically it's not anything special at all, but I think if you're going into an album like this looking for lyrics, you're shooting yourself in the foot immediately, because you're not going to get it, and you're not supposed to either. And I think we've learned that with artists like Playboi Carti. So I think if you are looking for that in this album, just imagine Playboi Carti is doing this instead, and he does feature on this album anyway, but still I think Pierre has just killed it here. Honestly, one of the best of its kind that I've heard. Yeah, high praise, I know, but I really just think it's such an addictive listen. I absolutely am stunned by this, and the runtime doesn't feel like it's too long either. It's like an hour long, but it doesn't feel it, honestly. Man, I could talk about this for ages, but I'll stop there because I think I've already talked about this before in my review anyway, and I don't want to go on and on and on forever about how fantastic I think it is. And that's it. That's the 10, or technically 12, albums that I think are some of the best of the year so far. I think we're going to get even more music to come, because just in this past month alone we've had some really great releases. So I think once we get into the summer months, once we hit September, October, they're usually big times of the year for music. So I can feel something bubbling. I think something big is on the way. Let me know your favourites of the year so far as well, if they're any different to mine. I'm sure many of you will have different albums that you want to mention. That Black Midi album, Tyler the Creator, both really worthy albums to have on your list, I think. But these are my picks, and the beauty of it is that we all have different opinions. And if you've just clicked on this video, randomly, never watched one of my videos before, then I'd like to think you've at least got one album that you are going to check out after watching the video. So yeah, thank you for watching. Have a good day. Subscribe if you have not already. The best songs list is going to come as well at some point. Have a good day. Subscribe, and goodbye.